Hey everybody, welcome to What the Flick. Welcome to our first Bojack Horseman season recap. It's season 3, and if you've seen it, you know there is a shit ton to talk about. Alonso Duralde, Grace Baldridge, Hasan Piker.
I don't know where to start.
I don't know where to start. I think this is, in the broader sense, a show that affirms the fact that no one learns anything.
I will disagree.
That we keep making the same mistakes over and over again.
But then we, in the end, learn something from the lessons that they're not learning, or at least I try.
Ideally,
I think that that's an argument to be made for Bojack, but I think we saw a lot of growth from other characters
like
this
Princess
season.
Carolyn. Which then ended up going back to the same
that's the
concept
thing.
of
I
becoming
think
a manager.
Princess Carolyn, good example.
But she did grow, and then just threw out.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like you see her, you know that she knows.
I know, but I think Bojack a lot of times knows things too. Certainly the 2 episodes where he has those long conversations with the closer, that's as close to therapy as he's gotten, and heaven knows he needs it.
Which I thought was such a brilliant device.
Yes.
And I kind of forgot midway through the episode that that's who he was speaking to.
the customer service representative for the LA Gazette.
Yeah, for the LA Gazette, and he's like, "But do you really want to cancel your subscription?" Like, yes. Like,
all right. Well, hang on. Before we get into it, let's do the broad overview of the season. Is that Secretariat is finished. Bojack isn't in it anymore. He's been computer enhanced and replaced by it, but nonetheless is expected to go out and trump for an Oscar nomination. They hire super publicist Anna Spanakopita to handle that, and of course, inevitably, they wind up sleeping together. And Bojack continues to make horrible, self-destructive decisions, and as we find out, as the closer, who's Candice Bergen, right?
I think it is,
that.
yeah.
The woman from the LA Gazette, who's assigned to keep his subscription going, points out that he does terrible things to people around him, so that when they inevitably leave him, he can point to the terrible thing and not himself as the cause. Which Todd Chavez wisely points out by the end of the season. No. It's not your terrible childhood. It's not the drugs and the alcohol. It's you. You're the problem. So
that's a great summary. I think that episode of the Gazette and the therapy session that he has with her really does summarize what we get to know of Bojack this season, and also the characters around him. But a lot happens before that, that we should, I guess, start to unpack. Because Bojack has, I would say, almost an expected arc a little bit. Just an expected arc. We don't really see any growth from him necessarily.
But a couple turns where he's trying to do the right thing, or like he has a little change of heart in the beginning.
We just see him in a different environment. He is now an A-list actor. He's gotten what he wanted from season 1.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
A celebrated and respected A-list actor.
Exactly. He's a legitimate movie star, and the reviews are great. But at the same time, as Cuddly Winks points out in the episode where they go to visit him.
Cuddly Whiskers, I think.
Cuddly Whiskers, you're right, sorry. None of that stuff means anything. The day he won his Oscar was the saddest day in his life. He realized nothing meant anything. He wanted to kill himself. And it's only in getting rid of all of that stuff that he was able to find peace. That revelation comes in an episode, and Hasan and I were talking this over the weekend. This show, my friend Kurt Holman does a podcast called The Comics Canon, and they were talking about Alan Moore, and he said that one of the things that makes Watchmen so interesting is that, in a way, it lays bare the structure of how comics work and how comics storytelling unfolds. And I feel like this show does the same for sitcoms in terms of just kind of laying bare the structure, the skeleton that operates under most like sort of 22-minute sitcom plots. And so you have this thing where the A story is, Bojack and Diane going to Cuddly Whisker's house, getting involved in the whole crazy whale murder thing. The B story is Mr. Peanut Butter and Todd, getting hit by the skunk, and Princess Carolyn trying to fix
to deal with that.
The situation. But ultimately, what that episode winds up being about is the whole revelation about how all of this showbiz stuff is meaningless. It's never going to make him happy, and the revelation that Diane and Mr. Peanut Butter have a lot of work to do to fix their marriage,
and that it's greater than just what the story A, story B is. And I think that's kind of what the show fools maybe newer viewers into thinking that it's just this, and then at the end you see, oh, it had nothing to do with getting skunked.
It's
you know?
the most. In my opinion, it's the most gritty, realistic look into like a cherished television actor like, let's say, Bob Saget's life after fame, and then maybe like a resurgence of his career, even though that didn't really happen to him. But like, it's one of the most realistic takes I've ever seen, and it's funny because it's done through animated characters and animals,
talking animals.
And it exists in a truly unique universe. I don't think that we give enough credit to the animators of this show because it is just such a beautiful. The underwater episode, just such a nod to Lost in Translation.
That whole episode is brilliant. You're right. I had not made that connection.
Wow, that's
absolutely.
such a good connection.
Yes.
It is, yeah.
But I mean, that we think it's daring when a show does a musical episode, but for a sitcom to do a silent episode, given how sort of verbal most of these shows are, and having to kind of rely on the visuals and the facial expressions and stuff. Yeah, you're right. No, that is one of the most singularly brilliant pieces of television I think I've ever seen. And the show in general, you're right, goes to incredibly dark places and sugarcoats it by putting it in a cartoon with talking animals in it. And so sometimes it takes a while to sort of reflect and go, oh my God, this show is so racked with
despair.
Imagine if it was
live action, like you would be, if it was like real characters going through that, you'd be like, this is the most depressing show I've ever seen in my life, and so real.
But it also, you couldn't have the humor, just like there's certain scenes that are even, I can't think of an example right now, but there are certain scenes that are really dark and heavy, but there'll be just a banner in the background.
The Bender episode is like the blackouts and then everything that happens and how it unfolds and how Sarah Lynn inevitably is like, Bojack realizes that they have so much in common with one another, and that because they've come from that same background, and that he loves her and she passes away at that. Like, it's just.
And we've seen him sort of have a role in kind of her slow destruction at various stages of her life, from being a little kid to that moment where he goes backstage to try and get her to come on the Bojack Horseman show, where she thinks that he's genuinely being a friend that she so desperately needs, and no, he's just another person asking for a favor.
Which might be her tipping point, right? That's what we were being.
I think that's a key moment in her life, is sort of like realizing there's nobody that she can rely upon. Oh God. This fucking show.
But I think, but see, in those moments where, that's so heavy, we can also point to, we were talking about before we were on camera, Krill and Grace. And there were some heavy scenes. Oh, an orca was murdered. But in the background, you see Krill and Grace. And what I like about this show is that it is so relatable, but also easily accessible to someone even outside of this Hollywood world, and maybe someone that doesn't necessarily like a dark show. Like, I just want an animated, fun show. I really think that there's something in BoJack Horseman for everyone, because there is such humanity in these, anthropomorphic characters.
Yeah, and as you say, it's sort of like the old Mad Magazine. If you're looking in the margins, there's these little jokes going on in the background, on the side. Like, every time there's a banner in a scene, there's always something funny on it or random. Like,
or Tom's rants.
Tom's rants. I love all the recurring stuff with Keith Olbermann as the news anchor
of
whale.
MSNBC.
I mean, there's a lot of gags. They keep it funny. They keep it moving along. But BoJack Horseman is, I would say, on a level of Don Draper, Walter White, like fucked up men on television. And we have yet to just when we think we've hit bottom with him, he finds a lower place to go. You'd think after the whole New Mexico sojourn that would have taught him something, but no. He sleeps with Emily. All the stuff with Sarah Lynn. His attempt to try and rescue, to not destroy the life of the little girl in Ethan Around involves destroying that show and the life of that other actor, who's pinned everything on this comeback.
Or having the reverse, Alcohol Anonymous, like 12 steps when the Bender episode.
The amends. The amends.
He's trying to make amends and making everything 100% worse, including visiting Penny.
Stalking her at Overland, right. But the whole thing with Princess Caroline, I would put her in the category of people who don't learn stuff, because she has this realization that, she has devoted her life to her work and it's made her unhappy and it hasn't been fulfilling. And then when she has the opportunity to get away from that, she goes back anyway. And I was talking to Dave about this, and he says, well, because a part of the problem of that is that even if you hate your job, at least you're in control of it. Whereas if you marry some rich guy who says he'll take you away from everything, you then become a wife with an allowance, even if it's a huge allowance.
And that's not Princess Carolyn.
And that's not her, and I get that. But
what I liked about this season is that whether or not people learned, that's always something we can kind of debate with Bojack Horseman, because they do revisit a lot of the same mistakes. But at least I like that they showed or gave more of an arc to some of the supporting characters. Princess Carolyn to me was a rock star in this season, because they gave her more to explain why she makes the choices that she has.
Yeah, the 2007 episode.
The 2007 episode was amazing. It had me from the mention of
2007.
Yeah, she's like, it's 2007. Let me get on my Uggs and go to work. Like, the writing, I don't think.
I drink your milkshake. You're going to think that's really funny next year.
Yeah.
I don't think the writing gets any better than the 2007 episode and the silent episode.
And another thing I specifically love is that they are not afraid to talk about political things as well. It's not just about inherent narcissism that's run rampant in Hollywood industry, or how people change throughout time but don't necessarily change. But then also the abortion episode with Sextina Aquafina, and how she takes this Twitter mishap, accidental tweet into launching her career into the next step, and then becoming this abortion advocate in the worst possible way. And it's so real. We see that with celebrities all the time. The song is amazing.
Just
pew pew.
I mean, the music on this show, I love at the end of the 2007 episode, where the closing theme got changed. In 2007, I had an unsuccessful TV show.
Yeah.
I think also they very interestingly leave us with a lot of really interesting cliffhangers here. What's Todd's story? Because I thought, is he gay also? But he could be asexual, which is.
I was thinking asexual.
Yeah, which would be an interesting thing to explore, especially for a sidekick character, because sidekick characters are so often presented that way without anyone ever putting that fine a point on it. Who's the teen horse girl?
Yeah.
And
it's Bojack's daughter.
That gave me chills when you said that. It's very.
Yeah.
I'm so uneasy about who that's going to be.
And then I'm assuming at the end those are wild horses. Like this universe's version of wild horses, stand upright and wear clothes, but they're still a pack of wild horses. And so that opens up any number of metaphors for where Bojack is at this point.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. Where does he go from here? Yeah. I can't imagine that there is a lower rock bottom.
There will be.
He'll manage.
No, there's going to be a lower rock.
But I have, my prediction would be that we come into the 4th season and maybe he's like a hippie with the horses. And because for Bojack, there's always some sort of he needs a distraction to distract from his
temporary
mess, his storminess inside. And that was the Oscars before, and then before that it was Secretariat, and before that he was just getting Secretariat. And I think that maybe if he joins like a hippie cult of wild horses, that could distract him from the actual real life damage that he's caused instead of dealing with his problems.
So basically Chet between seasons 1 and 2 of Unreal.
I was gonna say,
Yeah, and then inevitably destroy that cult from within, probably. Yes. If that's the case. Yeah.
I was actually thinking that one of the shows this reminds me of a lot is Nurse Jackie, who is also about a self-destructive character who ultimately never seems to learn anything.
And drug use.
But I mean, just in so many ways, and who comes up with so many elaborate rationalizations and
to explain her behavior instead of taking responsibility.
Right, and trying to maintain these relationships to the point that she can, but obviously not past the point where it would mean giving up, drugs.
Right.
And so for Bojack, it's kind of the same thing where he's trying to sort of be all things to all people, but not to the extent where he would have to give up his ego and his, all the other stuff that makes him who he is.
It's too real. That's too real to me. I swear to God,
she was
making fun of me as well.
Hard.
Yeah, it hits home way too frequently and in a very serious way where I have to pause it and be like, just take a deep breath and be like, God damn it.
Have you guys seen the series twice? I've never been able to. I remember the episodes so vividly, but it's hard for me to sit through the season again, which is unique to this show.
I have not, but yeah, you're right. It seems the idea of it seems difficult because there's so much like cringe moments. You know, we should talk about Mr. Peanut Butter, who for me I think has really emerged as from a one-joke character to somebody who actually has surprising depth.
I hated him in the first season.
Seriously. Well, that's why they were doing it.
Yeah, he seems like such a glad-hander, but then you know people like that, and you know that they're usually hiding a deep well of other stuff. And so we saw some of that. I think the way that his marriage to Diane has progressed, and she had a fascinating season too, having gone from this sort of serious, well-regarded writer to like writing
Instagram
tweets.
captions.
Yeah, you know, so I think she's kind of hit a certain level of bottom in terms of figuring out that she's thrown away her principles and isn't doing the kind of work that she wants to do. And then when she did do the work that she thought she was supposed to be doing, she hated it.
Yeah.
You know, so she's got to sort of figure out.
She's kind of a question mark for how they're going to deal with her in season 4.
Yeah, but Mr. Peanut Butter, you know, with the visit to the Labrador Peninsula and the dealing with his brother's health issues, obviously it's like, you know, it's putting cracks in that facade of like, hey, everything's great. And
his brother was voiced by Weird Al Yankovic. And
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that was, I thought that episode was so well done, especially, and this is what I love about this show, is that it appeals on a human level of Mr. Peanut Butter as an anthropomorphic character that we view as a guy, but then on a dog lover level, where that is how dogs are.
I know,
when it's their
time.
That. And they did it both just so seamlessly. You almost don't even notice it until you take
with
a step
all the
back.
animals too. That's like, again, exactly. It's like one of the things I love the most is like when they just make it so, like they add this vehicle for hilarity where they have all of these animals and their normal animal characteristics, like Labrador Peninsula, where everyone's always happy, or they might have to put him down. They might have to put him down because of his, spinal issue or his spleen issue. Or
the whole episode where they're negotiating against each other about who's going to get the Pegasus role, and Rutabaga's suggestion to distract Princess Carolyn as a laser pointer. You're right. They keep that stuff coming as well, so it never gets. I mean, it does get dark and it does get depressing, but it's never not funny at the same time.
Because of the universe.
Yeah. I can't think of anything else. Like I always, originally I was going to refer back to like Family Guy or any sort of like. No, it's not. 100% it's not. I was talking about the references though, like the detailed references to. Insider Hollywood knowledge, and it gets
the Osteria
deeper.
Mozza sign, but it's Osteria Seed, and it's a bird restaurant.
Yeah, it's like it gets way deeper than Family Guy in a sense, but like because Seth MacFarlane every now and then is like a Broadway nerd, and he'll like incorporate some really fringe thing that I wouldn't know about that I'd have to look up. But like with Bojack Horseman, there are a lot of instances where I'm like, okay, who's character actress?
Margot Martindale.
I love Margot Martindale.
She's the greatest.
She's the best. And the pasta strainers. And
the pasta strainer, that is like a perfect example of how to like setting up a gag and and then the payoff. That was ingenious.
I think this is a show and that you don't see this so often, I feel, today, and I would even say this with Unreal, which is the show that we review, where you can just tell that the writers have this cohesive idea from the beginning of what do we want to do this season and how are we going to get there, and what, just planning out those gags to make sure that we do have that payoff as viewers at the end. I just appreciate it so much because so often, maybe I'm just watching the worst shows, but so often I feel like, do you know what you're doing now? I was thinking
you watch a lot of reality television.
No, I was thinking of a very similar show, Pretty Little Liars, to Bojack Horseman.
Yeah, her favorite shows are garbage for the most part.
And I have to say, this is like super esoteric or whatever, but as somebody who has attended film festivals in other countries, that underwater episode really nails that feeling of being somewhere where you don't quite understand the language and you're trying to figure out what you're supposed to do and where to go, and like the signs don't all make sense, and I don't know, there were just little details in that episode that I could relate to.
So do you think it's especially interesting to people like us because we are in one way, shape, or form involved within this entertainment industry? Because like one of the things I always loved, even before I was on camera or anything, like I loved shows like Extras or Life's Too Short, where it kind of gave you like this sneak peek behind the scenes, behind all the glamour, and then actors playing exaggerated versions of themselves, which is one of my favorite things.
It's interesting because I think a lot of times with this sort of material, you hear the complaint of, oh, it's too inside baseball and nobody cares if you're not into it. And I mean, I think that you could say that, and obviously it helps to know things like how press junkets work, the idea of being stuck in the hotel room all day having to answer the same questions over and over again. But I think that the characters here are rich enough and, again, bizarre enough because so many of them are talking animals that I think that allows an entry for people who don't care about the minutia of show business to still relate to these characters and how they interact. And even if you don't know the difference between an agent and a manager, you can still see where they're going and what mistakes they make and why it's interesting.
Yeah, and it almost educates them as well. And I feel like because it's the entertainment industry, a lot of people are inherently interested in it regardless, because like everyone wants to know what actors are doing or celebrities are doing.
Yeah, and I think it is a really well-regarded show in Hollywood, and we see that for the number of actors that want to play themselves. We were talking about Jessica Biel plays herself in the 2007 episode.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of brutal. I mean, I forget what she mentions one of the movies.
She rattles off all the things she's been in.
Seventh, nope. I was on Seventh Heaven and I posed for that magazine.
Yes.
Oh, you!
That's the one, yeah.
And then I forgot several episodes later when Mr. Peanut Butter is having an angry phone call with his ex-wife, that his ex-wife was Jessica Biel.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
With his Von Dutch hat, oh my God.
Mr. Peanut Butter is, so here's what we do know actually as far as like future predictions on season 4. We know that Mr. Peanut Butter is it's going to be like a subplot like Arnold running for the governor.
Oh, right. Yeah. That's the other thing. I forgot about that.
And also his wife is going to most likely be doing like hit pieces on that blog, which I really love.
Oh, right.
I love that premise. It's like, yes, I'm a internet blogger, beauty guru, glam lifestyle. Krush, you were so Krush, girl. I was like, that's nails it.
I forgot
completely.
about that. Yeah, I hate to use the dreaded M word, but yeah, that was a very sort of like millennial web tycoon thing where it's just like
that
a
was
million
really
ideas
good.
that don't
and
connect
also
in
a little
any way.
bit like Gwyneth Paltrow's I
Goop,
think that Goop. I think that's what they were referring to a little bit.
Krush for sure.
Yeah.
And I love again with the running gags like how they're still talking about Hollywood.
Yeah.
You know, and about just the J.D. Salinger
Orion
stuff like
Seacrest type J.D. Salinger.
Yes, when somebody calls it Orion at one point, which was great.
It's my favorite character.
And the 9 stories building, and that comes up again later. You know, all right.
So much.
So we love this show, and it's amazing. And when is season 4? Not soon enough. I want it now. But anyway, we found a lot to love here, and I may watch this one again. Because again, just if only to look at all the banners and signage and background stuff. Because
just for the Easter eggs alone, it has like rewatch potential if you can get through how emotional,
the Dark Night of the Soul.
Yeah, how it puts you through this emotional roller coaster, basically.
All right, thanks for watching, you guys.